Hey everyone, welcome back to the A.C.E Football Academy. This is Coach Dunham, joined alongside Coach Hamilton. We are bringing you the English Premier League 2024-2025 season review. We are going to look at the big teams are back. We cannot wait. We're going to be looking at some of the top teams, the new teams coming up, some predictions maybe that we're looking at. Coach, I'm going to throw a question at you real quick. Yeah, we know you're an Arsenal fan. I'm a Liverpool fan. Other than that, looking at the entire season, what are you most excited about in this season coming up?
Okay, great question. I am most excited to see how the quote-unquote powerhouses that we grew up with, how they respond. How does Man United respond? You know, they've hung on to Ten Hag. They made it clear that they're coming back with him. I'm interested to see what Chelsea does. How is Chelsea going to respond to another disappointing season? You know, for me, growing up, I feel like Chelsea was in the top four all the time. So how does United, how does Chelsea, does Tottenham get back in the top four? Does those teams that I grew up with, those teams that I grew up watching and enjoying, are they going to get back into the top four, or are we going to continue to see the Aston Villas, you know, those types of teams crack the top four?
100%, and I'm with you there. What I'm most interested is the coaches. What coaches are going to be gone by midseason? What team is going to go through multiple coaches, either get rid of the head coach and go through some interim coaches? There are plenty of teams that have new coaches that have come in, some unproven. Maybe they have a history of being on a big team, or maybe they came from another league, either Serie A, La Liga, or it may be, and they're going to test out the Premier League. You've got Ten Hag, who's automatically on the hot seat coming in. They've given him another chance, and we'll see what happens. Chelsea got in a new coach that I'm already hearing they're not sure he's going to make it through a full season. West Ham bringing in a new coach. Liverpool bringing in a new coach.
Liverpool's got a new. Is it safe to say, and since we're talking about new coaches and we're already on this roll, your first impression of Arne Slot, you've been pretty pleased with, right?
So he's had plenty of preseason games where obviously you don't have your full roster on there. Probably playing a team that doesn't have their full roster.
Right.
But it doesn't sound like he's really changing the philosophy that those players are used to. I think the word we're using is he's tweaking a few of the concepts. I think he has a squad that Jurgen Klopp has built in a genius fashion. But I think Arne Slot recognizes that he can't just come in and say, forget what you knew, we're going to do this now. He's just tweaking things. And right now I think they're still making it work. But I think over time, Arne Slot will probably be successful at Liverpool.
Well, I didn't mean to go here, but let's start with Liverpool then. If I'm not mistaken, they did nothing, right? I mean, they didn't sign anybody. They didn't. I know they lost.
Yeah, they sold off Carlisle to Brentford, I believe. Matip left. Quinteros retired.
But it's basically their last season roster.
It is exactly the last thing starting lineup.
With what we got.
Absolutely. There have been some attempts at a couple signings. One guy opted to stay with his current team. They're currently looking at another defender. It's not done yet, but they very well could go into the season without any major signings for the new season.
Which, for a team that you would think is going to compete for a top four spot, for a Champions League spot, it's kind of wild.
I think part of that is they already have some nice youth players. That one thing I give Klopp a lot of credit is he gave his youngsters plenty of playing time last year when he could get him in the field.
Right.
Like Kwanzaa, the center back, couldn't finish the last 6 games as a starting center back. You got Ben Doak, you've got Curtis Jones, there's Harvey Elliott. There's youth that have experience, and I think that's why I'm not panicking about not having any new signings. One thing Jurgen Klopp really promoted was, I don't need to go out and buy new players. We have a youth academy that we're developing players to bring up.
All right, so before we move off of Liverpool, Coach, fill in the blank. Liverpool will have a successful season.
We have no injuries in the front three. if we can keep Salah, Jota, and Luis Diaz healthy, we're going to score plenty of goals, and we're going to finish plenty of games.
Would you consider this season top 4 or bust?
Yeah. The fact that you haven't lost any of your starting lineup, you shouldn't be missing a beat. So let's flip the page here, Coach. We're going to look at Arsenal, and this is your squad. They have one good signing, Ricardo Fiore, the Italian left back, I believe, who can also play center back. No other major signings. However, last year, Arsenal brought in Declan Rice. I think they brought in Kai Havertz last year as well. Do you think they're going to bring City this season?
Well, the biggest question, I think, for Arsenal is the goal scoring, right? Because they've been rumored with a ton of strikers in the offseason. Is Kai Havertz going to be the striker that they want him to be? The striker that they think he can be? If he is, then I would assume that Arsenal is probably done in the transfer portion of the season. I even think Arteta said, yeah, we're kind of done. Some that falls in our lap and great, but we're done. I think of it, again, I think this revolves around can we score, you mentioned Liverpool being able to score goals and all those things. Can Kai Havertz, Gabriel Jesus can, definitely Rice is more of a defensive mid, but can those guys create, and Saka, can those guys create enough mayhem to score goals at the pace to catch Man City? They're hoping that this signing of Ricardo Calafiori,
I think that's correct.
there we go. They're hoping that that's the missing piece. I talked a lot last year about, and I think you even asked me, what would be the one position that I would figure out if I was Arsenal, and I said goalkeeper. I mean, they have to stir up the back end. They have to be stronger. They can't give up the silly goals like they gave up to West Ham last season and all those things. But I think Arsenal's almost Liverpool-ish. They're rolling with who they have.
Yeah.
And they think they're talented enough to catch Man City.
Well, let me ask you a reverse question. Looking at your season in review on Arsenal, what is your one weakness in the Arsenal squad that you're like, if we can make sure that doesn't break us up, we're going to be successful?
I think it's the back line, maybe even the goalkeeper.
Is it the whole defense, or is it somebody specific that you're looking at?
I honestly, for me, I think it's just the goalkeeping. I watched, of course, what's his name's not even there anymore, but Raya, I watched him make just silly mistakes, trying to build out of the back, and almost like mistakes that I tell my parents, hey, we're gonna make these mistakes because we're trying to learn the game, we're trying to build out of the back, and you don't expect those mistakes at Arsenal.
Right.
And they were making them last season. Again, I think I am maybe putting too much emphasis on the goalkeeper in that portion of things, but that's where it starts, right? And so I think if David Raya is the answer and they can shore up that position with his leadership, his communication, all those types of things, I think they're going to be a lot of fun. Are they going to win the league? I hope so, fingers crossed, but I think they got a chance.
Okay, let's move on through the champions, Manchester City, who, it makes me sick saying it, have won it 4 consecutive years in a row. The word is that Pep Guardiola is saying this is going to be his final season. I don't know that I've read anything that's made that official. I've heard ramblings of this is his farewell season. You mentioned that Manchester City has 100 and some allegations of
115
allegations of fair. What's it called again?
Whatever. Fair.
The financial dealings have been illegal at some point. So I'm wondering, is Pep saying, well, that's my time to get out of here? So
right, which would not be unheard of. We see coaches like that,
absolutely.
Especially here in the States. The college football, the college basketball coaches. Right. I know I screwed up, so I'm gonna go ahead and get out of this while I can. But I mean, we watched. Was it Liverpool who got docked points last year? It wasn't Liverpool.
No, that was Everton.
Everton and Nottingham Forest both ended up being docked points last season, and so for Man City, even I think Everton was docked 8 points and Nottingham Forest was docked 6 points. For a Man City, I mean that's the difference in winning and losing the league for them.
For sure.
I mean,
and we're talking about 2 to 3 points difference in the past few seasons.
So I'm very interested to see how that all plays out. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get an answer to that this season. I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about those results of those allegations next EPL season. But I mean, I don't know. Let's dock Man City 15 points and start them at negative 15. And
well, let's say for whatever reason that doesn't happen until next summer.
Mm-hmm.
Are we in agreement that City, Arsenal, Liverpool are going to finish top 4?
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at the teams that...
I will say I'm interested in you. I know you have it up right here. I'm very interested to see what Man City does. Of course, they lost Julian Alvarez. He goes to Atletico Madrid for a pretty big fee. The kid they like, and I forget where he's from. I think he might even be a academy guy. But the Oscar Bob, I'm assuming is how you pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
He broke his leg, I think, real nice.
He's done for the season.
And so leaves them with Holland as really their only true and experienced forward. And look, we are not taking anything away from Holland. We know how good he is. He's going to be the favorite to win the Golden Boot and all that kind of stuff, right? But for Man City, you got to be a little concerned about what you're going to do up top, right?
I don't know. Pep is so good at this. You could put Foden. You could put Foden up there and work off of him. You could put Grealish up there. He has options that I'm not freaking out about if Holland needs a night off.
Right.
Or he gets tweaks his ankle in the middle of the game. I think he'll be able to adjust. I'm not concerned with City. They need to be worried about having points deducted because of their allegations against them. Let's just move on to some of the teams that we're going to be following or interested in. Obviously, we've already talked about Manchester United. Last season was their worst Premier League season in the history of the club, which is the fact that he's still there is insane. They've spent over 180 million in incoming transfers just this summer. Erik ten Hag is still their head coach. I don't see them finishing the top 4 even after everything they've done, because I don't think Ten Hag has proven he's the top level coach, and he's had plenty of time to get his players ready.
I think that's the key. I think when you look at the money they spent in the transfer window, you look at the faith that they've poured into him. I think it is going to be a very, very interesting August, September, October. I mean, if they started like they did last season, when you and I spent all of September and October last season wondering if Ten Hag was going to make it to Christmas.
Oh, right.
But we kind of said, we'll see where they are at Christmas. Well, they clearly believe in him. They clearly think that he's doing something correct. But I know we're going to talk about this, and I know we're going to predict our top 4 officially later. But for me, I'm kind of on the opposite side of where you are. They got to know something. They have to think Erik ten Hag has something going. He knows what he's doing. He's developing his system or whatever it is to get back into the top 4.
I agree with you 100%. And we can't wait to see what happens there, because that's really going to be the storyline.
It is.
That's a massive club.
I mean, if they start
dropped in the table.
I mean, if they spend August, September, October like they did last season, there's no way they keep him, right?
Especially after spending that amount of money.
Yeah. I mean, if even in a month's time, 2 months' time, I shouldn't say month.
His season is red hot, and he better have his team ready to go.
In 2 months' time, if they're sitting at, like they were this time last year, at 14th, 15th, 16th on the table, where you never truly thought they were going to get relegated because they're too damn talented.
Yeah.
But they're also sitting at 14th on the table where you also don't expect them to be. There's no way they keep him, right? I mean, we said this last year, we were wrong, but I can't imagine them going through another year of what they did last season. And that's why I think that they're confident in the turnaround and the rebuild that he's doing behind the scenes.
All right, Coach. So this season we have 3 new teams that have been promoted. We have Ipswich Town, Southampton coming back to the Premier League, Leicester City coming back to the Premier League. Ipswich hasn't been in the Premier League since the 2001 season. So been a while since they've been back into the big league.
Good for them.
Quick question, Coach. Do you feel like either 3 of these will still be in the Premier League next season?
I mean, if I was going to have to pick, I guess I would lean toward Leicester City because they've been here before. It feels like they're up and down every year. They spend a year in the championship. They spend a year in the EPL. They spend a year in the championship. They spend a year in the EPL. So if you trust any of the, and I know Southampton has had some history in the EPL and things like that, but if you trust any of those teams to hang around, I would predict Leicester City. I know Ipswich Town played, as of our recording today, Liverpool to a 0-0 halftime.
True.
Ended up losing, but of course it was never close, and you were never worried. But to answer the question, I would ride with Leicester City, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if all 3 of those teams were going back down at the end of the season.
I agree with you 1,000%. I feel like Southampton probably has the funds to bring in some players to maintain that. Like you said, all 3 could go right back down, and I don't think either one of us would be very surprised. So let's just look at the 4 teams that you and I are looking at to either break the top 4 or steal points from the top 3 teams. First team we're going to look at is Aston Villa, last year's top 4 finisher. Very unexpected from Aston Villa.
I mean, for a long time they were first and second. It wasn't. I guess you could say they faded toward the end of the season, but they still finished top 4.
Right.
I think there were 3 teams in the league last year that scored more goals than their expected goals, and that was Arsenal, Man City, and then Aston Villa. So, I mean, that's how you get in the top 4, right? You win that expected goals category. If I'm expected to score a goal and a half every game, but I get 3, then I should be pretty good, right? So I think you have to kind of weigh that. Did they overperform? But at the same time, if you say, yeah, clearly they overperformed, then you also have to ask that question about City and Arsenal, which I think is fair. But I think talent-wise, of those 3 teams, there's no secret in that Villa is the team that truly overperformed.
And I think the question this year is, can they handle the Premier League as well as playing the Champions League? They've lost Douglas Luiz to Juventus. However, they have signed 6 players, all 23 or younger. So they're looking at youth, which is, I think, is the right way to go to maintain the longevity of your club.
And I think you and I discussed last season many times that last season was one of the, on average, oldest teams in the league. So they had to get younger. So they're gonna miss Douglas Luiz. But you're right. They're bringing in some young, fresh talent, and I don't think it's anything to be overlooked. You bring in young talent and English Premier League club, those kids are going to be looking to prove themselves. And, here we are. Playing with a lot of ace can mean something in the grand scheme of things. And so I do think Villa has that going for them.
So let me throw this right at you. Aston Villa, did they finish in the top 4, top 6, or outside of it?
I'm going top 6. I don't think they finished top 4, but I'm going top 6. What about you?
I believe they finished outside the top 6.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that they repeat that type of style.
Okay.
So let's move on to Tottenham, who did not finish in the top 4 last season. Postecoglou did prove he's a quality coach. They started the season last year super hot, but in the last half, they struggled. Losing Harry Kane was a massive loss for them last season. I don't feel like they've replaced that. They have extended the loan on Timo Werner, who's a very nice wing for them to use. They did sign a striker in Dominic Solanke. I don't know, he's nowhere near a Harry Kane type of striker. Can the defense keep Tottenham in games? And the question is going to be, is where are the goals coming from? Is Son going to be the lone goal scorer? Is Solanke going to get it done? Is Timo Werner going to get it done? If you're relying on Son, kind of like you did with Harry Kane, I don't know how your season is going to be successful.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. I was trying to figure out where Solanke played last season.
I believe he was with Bournemouth.
Yeah, I think that's correct. But Tottenham kind of weathered the storm without Harry Kane for a long time, for several months. And you and I think both said we're surprised with how they're handling the departure of Harry Kane. But it became clear as the season went on that, okay, Tottenham can't score goals. And you nailed it. Are they going to be able to score enough goals to hang around? And I know my answer, so I'll throw it to you. Are they outside the top 6, or do you think they're in?
I'm giving Tottenham a top 6.
Okay, I'm going to go outside the top 6.
Okay.
I think they finish 8th or 9th. I don't think they're ever out of it, but I don't see them cracking the top 6.
Let's look at the team that we think is going to be competing and taking away points. That's Newcastle United. Last year, Alexander Isak, their striker, was noted as the most accurate shooter in the league last season. Maintaining your head coach, Eddie Howe. They have signed 5 new players. However, majority of the starting lineup is still intact. So you're pretty much going to see what you saw last year as far as talent, as far as style of play.
I think, for me, the question with Newcastle United is, will they be healthy? They dealt with so many decimators. I mean, I think they had like 7 players who missed 10 or more matches or something like that, and then 4 players who missed 20 or more matches last season because of injury. And this was off of the a season where they made the top 4. So if they can stay healthy, I think Newcastle is really, really good. And I told you this off air. I'll go ahead and put it on now. I think not only are they back in the top 6 this season, I think they break back into that top 4 into the Champions League.
Very nice, Coach. All right, let's look into our other team, and that's Chelsea. They have let go of their former head coach, Mauricio Pochettino, and they have brought in new head coach, Enzo.
That Pochettino guy, I hear he got a new job.
We're going to talk about that in another episode, but that is very true. He'll be on the American side. Chelsea struggled in the first half of the season last year. Really picked things up in the second half. Ended up finishing the season in 6th, I believe. And now they got a new head coach, a new style of play. Is that going to be an issue for them? Is it going to take them a few games to get gelled as a team to that new style? The question right now is their new player, Neto. Did they overpay for this guy? He's very injury prone, not a proven starter, possibly competing against 2 or 3 other players already on the roster. Could you get any information on this Neto guy? Is he going to be a guy that turns things around for Chelsea?
Yeah, he's a young kid, 24, I think, maybe. They're paying close to $70 million for him. So they're expecting him, when you pay that amount of money, you expect him to come in and be a star. And I just don't know if he's that. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he's fantastic. And as you mentioned, I like what Chelsea did at the end of the season last year. They got themselves, maybe not ever in contention for the top 4, but we at least started talking about them at the end of last season. Like, hey, Chelsea's won 3 or 4 in a row, and here we are. So I think, if the NATO kid can score, can he be in the top 5 or 6 in goal scorers this season in the EPL? I think that changes everything for them. Very similar to Tottenham. If Chelsea can find a goal scorer, I think they're a very interesting club.
All right, because we're kind of running short on time here, so we're going to flash through the last episode or last section of this. Who is your dark horse, your sleeper? May not necessarily finish in the top 4, but could be challenging and for the 5th and 6th spots, or maybe improve drastically from last season. What are you looking at for this year, Coach?
I know you're going to laugh at me when I say this, and you already have it pulled up because you and I've talked about it all. But, Coach, I like Bournemouth. I like what they've done in the offseason. There are very few changes, and the changes that are there, I think, make them better. And, for a club that, I don't think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago, they got promoted and hung around. They finished top 15, I think, last year. I really like them. I think their goal this season should be, hey, can we finish top 10? And if they get into the top 10, I think that is a massive win. But I really like A.C.E Bournemouth, and I like them as, do I think they're going to win the league? Of course not. Do I think they're going to be top 4? No. But do I think they're going to be top 6? You could convince me that they may flirt with top 6.
Yeah, I like that they've brought in some youth the last few years, and we've talked about that already. As far as your longevity as a club, you've got to bring in the youth to continue that streak.
They're a club, and again, I want to hear your sleeper, but they're a club too that, if I'm not mistaken, they signed like 3 or 4 or 5 guys last offseason, and none of them played this past season because of injury.
Wow.
Like Tyler Adams, of course, you and I both love Tyler Adams and what he does on the pitch. He didn't play last season. So yeah. I think they have potential if their 2023 signings pan out. I think they could be really good.
Yeah, Coach, I'm going to be looking at, as my sleeper, is West Ham. They got rid of David Moyes. They brought in Julian Lopetegui.
Nailed it.
I probably butchered that.
No, you don't want me to try to pronounce it.
They have brought in some quality players to upgrade their talent. I'm looking at this as a team that's going to challenge for a top 6 spot.
Okay.
I'm not thinking top 4. I think they can hit 5 or 6. Could it happen? I don't know, but I think they have the talent to get there, Coach.
Coach, before we sign off, give me your top 4. Hit me with them.
Arsenal, Liverpool, City.
All right, so give me. Wait, are you going in order?
Oh yeah,
you're giving Arsenal this thing on slide time.
If Jurgen Klopp was still here, I would not be giving you that.
You put Liverpool.
Oh yeah, okay. Klopp's still there. I'm taking Liverpool to win it all, but now we got a new coach who's tweaking things. I'm going to put the Arsenal because they did get better as far as on paper. So I'm going Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City, Chelsea.
Okay, I'm going Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Newcastle.
I like it, Coach. This has been the A.C.E Football Academy and your Premier League 2024-2025 season in review. I'm Coach Dunham. This is Coach Hamilton. Fix the next.